Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Jill and I are discussing a very, very common question, one of the most popular questions we get. This is part 2 of our discussion. Should I or should I not list my rates on my website? And if you didn't get a chance to listen to the reasons that you should, that means like, what are the pros and cons for listing your rate on your website? Be sure you listen to part 1. But this is going to be part 2. So we are going to discuss the pros and cons of not putting your rates on your website. Now, Jill and I come from this from a personal experience because neither one of us list our rates on our websites. The purpose of this conversation is not to sway you to follow us.
Right.
Everybody should do what works best for them in their personal tutoring business.
Absolutely.
So, but just, it's a good conversation to have to help you decide what's best.
Right, because sometimes you can kind of have tunnel vision of, yes, here's why we want to do something, and we might not realize some of the other aspects at play. So for us, here are some of the positives, like why you might not want to list your rates on your website. And one of those is that it gives you the opportunity to talk with the family. And so sometimes when a family sees a price, they might not even take that next step, right? So by not having those specifics on your website, it encourages them to reach out to you and have a conversation with them. And it means that you get to start talking about that family's journey, the concerns they have for their child. You get to actually talk about the family and the child first before you start talking about price. And so to me, that is an opportunity. Even if that family does not sign up with me, I love that I get to build that relationship with them from the beginning. I'm able to maybe able to support them and guide them to resources, even if it's not me. And they get that positive experience of talking with me, even if we decide not to work together, right? So, I mean, do you find the same thing, Emily, when you get to talk with families?
Yes, I really do. I spend a great deal of time just listening, listening to their concerns, why they chose to reach out to me, what are their what are their major things they really are seeking help for their child, what are their reasons, things like that. I spent a lot of time listening right away.
Right. And again, it brings you that opportunity to build relationships. And so I've had families that I've talked with who weren't ready for tutoring right away, but they end up signing up with me later, or they refer me to somebody else because they had that positive experience with me in that consultation session. And so I think for relationship building, I think it is wonderful to be able to have that conversation. And again, sometimes putting your price on there keeps people from taking that next step. And so we like doing that for the relationship and the opportunity to focus on family, but it's also a great way for you to be able to communicate the value of your services. So before you are talking about price, you're letting families know, here is what the tutoring sessions look like. Here is how it will help your child with those specific needs that you just told us about. So you can actually use that conversation that you're having. You can talk to the parent and say, remember how you told me this is what you're seeing? Well, this is how this type of intervention is going to help. And here is why it is different from maybe traditional tutoring or academic tutoring or homework help or what your child is getting in school. You get to actually communicate that value. So by the time you talk about the price, the parents have a better understanding of what is included and why this is a valuable service for their child. So that can be very helpful if you happen to charge more or if you have a more specialized type of tutoring service. You want to be able to differentiate yourself, right? And be able to explain that.
Yep. When you have those specialized offers, you need more time to really explain how it's different than your typical academic tutoring session and how specifically things are really tailored to that child's needs. So you just need more time,
right?
I think, to do that.
Yes. And I think it can help. I found that sometimes it's easier to say the price and communicate that when you've already like explained what it really is like including, right? And
Agreed.
then the third thing with those prices, though, is we also understand that sometimes with tutoring, that price can be, I mean, no matter what your price is, I've had people balk at low prices for groups and higher. I mean, it could be anything, right? But if a family is a little bit hesitant about the price, the investment of tutoring services, our job is never to convince them to do it. Our job is to help them get clarity in if this is a step that will help their child. And if so, we can maybe explain to them some ways that we can make it work. So I've talked with families about like, let's look at, you know, what if we did your payment on a certain date around your pay schedule? Would that help make it easier? Or some families, I've done it where I do prepay by the month, but when I'm talking with the family, I find out, would it be easier to schedule 2 payments every month? One at the beginning, one in the middle. And then sometimes that is all it takes. Or maybe there are local grants, local like services that can help to provide some funding. But also a lot of my families, we realize that they're actually family members who would love to help out. So grandparents often will help pay for tutoring services with the families that I work with. And for the grandparents, it's something that they happily do, but maybe the parent hasn't thought about that yet. And so just kind of sharing how other families you've worked with have found a way to budget for tutoring services can be really helpful for the family, rather than just seeing a price and immediately going, oh, I can't do that, right?
It's really beautiful to see how that village comes together when grandparents are able to offer a little bit of financial assistance. So, all right. I think we should get into the cons.
Right. Yeah. Because, you know,
all right,
it's not all pros. So what are some of the cons, Emily?
All right. So we're talking about reasons that are some of the cons for, remember, not listing your rate on your website. So, you know what? Some families, when they're searching online or maybe, you know, looking at different flyers, they want to know right away. They just want to know the answer, you know, what is their rate? And so they know that, well, okay, the rate's not there. I'm going to have to really find out, dig a little bit more, or send that first initial email, make that phone call to find out. So that can sometimes slow things down a little bit from a parent perspective. So, and when they're slowing and when not posting your rate kind of slows down the process, then they start to feel like, maybe I should just maybe look elsewhere, or, oh, well, this person said this was their rate per session. So you know what? That works for me. I'm just going to go there. So we know that these conversations are so important to have with families. But I think each family has their own individual needs, and we're respectful of that, but we know that each one really does deserve specialized conversations and relationship building. So don't want to slow down the process for them. However, that sometimes is the reality.
Right. And sometimes also as a tutor in the beginning, you might really want to have those conversations, right? But as you get busier and as your reputation builds, you may find that you need to streamline the process for yourself, for your own business, to have as much information as possible on the website ready to go, so that you are not spending as much time having conversations with parents, and you're kind of more just like getting them moving along. And so we've heard that from tutors as well, that, you know, sometimes they need to have it so people know if they can afford it or not before they start talking with them. This really does help if you already have the reputation out there. People know what your services are. They are pretty clear that they are reaching out to you because you have been recommended for this specific type of service. So that would be the con too, is that it does mean that you will be having more conversations with families, and you may have found that you need to streamline that onboarding process a little bit because you might just be too busy. So
yeah, you may be in a high needs area where lots of people are reaching out to you, which is awesome, by the way. But it just may mean like Jill said, you just got to streamline the process just a little bit more. It doesn't mean
Right.
that you not have those open conversations with families, but just figuring out ways that they can get access to you more easily. All right.
So now you've got 2 videos, you guys. You now know the pros and cons to listing your price, and you know the pros and cons to not listing your price. So again, it's up to you. Decide what feels best for you, what would work best for you, and try it out. And if you find that listing your prices is having a negative effect, try not listing it and focusing on the experience of tutoring and the results and the relationship with the families. But if you find that it is slowing things down, then go ahead and put that price on there. You just figure out what's going to work for you. Okay. But we wanted to be able to like explore both sides so you could see that it's not as easy as a yes or a no answer. So, right. You have to try it out. So, all right. Thanks for being here with us. Bye, guys.
Bye.